Okay, so Erev Tov, everybody. Chodesh Tov. Welcome to our Erev Chizuk in memory of our beloved teacher and friend, Dr. Dodi Fishman Tobin. And this evening is extra special because we also have Dodi's sisters joining us. So please enjoy the evening. Go ahead, Shani.
Thank you. And as Melissa said, we're here together, and we are honored to have Dr. Tovah Lichtenstein together with Marci and Rocky Fishman, Marci Wiesel, Marci Masha, and Rocky Brody. And we're here in Marci's house with many times I remember coming here together with Dodi, meeting here on Purim, meeting here, special Shabbatot. And this evening, when I invited Dr. Tovah Lichtenstein, because we, as we know, really need a Chizuk these days, she said to me, Shani, I don't give divrei Chizuk. That's your job. But in speaking, even over the course of a few moments, I recognized how significant every word that Dr. Tovah says, all the lessons of resilience and giving us tools that we can all deal with today. That's exactly part of what Chizuk is, and certainly in the tribute and memory of Dr. Dodi, who was not only a phenomenal Torah teacher, but also a psychologist, the one that you would speak to for a little bit of Chizuk. So we're going to go, and we're going to begin with Dr. Tovah. If she can just introduce herself and give opening words, followed by the Fishman sisters.
Good evening. My name is Tovah Lichtenstein. And all I can say in Yomim Elu in these days that Shlomi Kishlom Ha'am, according to the famous poem by Chaim Guri that was written in 1948, I am the way my people is. How are you? I am as my people is. And I realize these are difficult times. And as I said too, I'm a social worker. I've had many years of experience working with all kinds of people from all ways of life. I've had experience teaching social work, and one of the most important experiences that I had in my life was working with victims of terror. I worked with victims of terror who had lost both parents. I worked with the people that were raising them. And I think it was from them I really learned the resilience of the person. The person is resilient. And I think that is one of the main messages that I can bring to people, is people are resilient. People can handle, how would I say, that people can handle troubles. And people can grow with those troubles, and people can be empathetic to other people. And if we will all be empathetic to one another and hold each other's hands and cry on each other's shoulders and pray together, then I think that we will be doing the things that Dodi wanted us to do.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And if you can introduce yourselves, give us a little background beyond a claim to fame as Dodi's sisters, a little bit about these very special women whom, and we all know here in Alon Shvud and beyond, really women in their own right who serve as phenomenal role models and sources of inspiration, and apparently it runs in the family. So if you can introduce yourselves a little, and also as Dr. Tovah, to give a little bit of background to your sense of what you're experiencing these days.
I'm Marci, and I live here in Auschwitz. I'm an artist, and I'm a mother of a bunch of children, many who are in the army, or doing other things for service of the country. What am I going through these days? Like Dr. Tovah said, like everybody else, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, and I'm doing a lot of davening and tehillim in the middle of the night, and learning a lot, volunteering. It's an up and down. It's a constant mixed emotions of I would say mostly love of our country, love of my children, love of our community, love of the Jewish people, and praying that I guess that love or the good is what's going to beat this evil.
Beautiful. Rocky.
Okay, I'm Rocky, Brody. Dodi and Marci and I are three sisters, and we have our brother Adam, and of course our parents, and we all live here in Israel. Dodi made Aliyah first, and then Marci, then myself, then Adam, and then our parents, and our grandparents are here as well. So we clearly were brought up with this love for Israel and Tzionut. I think talking about what we're going through, I mean, I remember making Aliyah 21 years ago, and we came at the end of the second Intifada, but my oldest was 7 years old at the time, and I had my two youngest were born here. I have 6 sons, 6 boys, and 4 of them were called up for Miluim right now. So 4 of them are serving, and it's very hard. And I remember 21 years ago thinking, when my oldest was 7, maybe Mashiach will be here by the time they have to go to the army. I actually heard someone on the news say that the other day also, like, oh, we were thinking Mashiach will come. I'm like, that was my line. That was what I always thought. I mean, I think we're getting closer, but obviously this is a really, really difficult time. And getting through each day has been not easy, really hard, actually. There's a few things I do to get through the day. I check in with I send a message to my 4 sons who are serving, and I wait for an answer. Don't know if I'll get one, because a lot of times their phones are taken away and they're not with their phones. But I do wait. It's just something I have to do, something to get through my day. There's a lot of tefillot happening, so we're doing a lot of that. But then other times, besides volunteering and helping farmers and doing things like staying active or being with grandchildren when we can, that helps. But there's some really down times and scary times, and when you don't get the call and you're waiting by the phone, and I know it's normal, and I know we'll win this war and we'll get through this. A lot of times I also think, to help myself, I think about my grandfather, our grandfathers, but our grandfather, Grandpa Lenny, who went off to Europe for 2 years and didn't see his daughter, and was injured in the Battle of the Bulge, and had to come back, and was another 2 years going from hospital to hospital for having operations. And he lived a beautiful and long life, making Aliyah in the end. And that gives me some strength, just like what Dr. Tovah was saying. We'll get through this, but like if he could get through it with World War II and the Holocaust and fighting for, as an American soldier, and I sometimes just have to I make myself think of that, and it helps me get through some moments. But yeah, it's not easy, and that's why we're here tonight, to have an evening like this with Dr. Tovah and with Shani. Really, with the 2 of them, we are just here as a side point to listen to them, and also to learn how to have this discussion of how we can all get through this together.
I just want to say one more thing just about how things are going. Besides that, literally an hour ago, I just got a call from my son, who just came out of Gaza for the first time. So that was a big deal. But besides all of that, we can't forget that regular life still happens. And people are still, there's still things that you have to deal with. People still are sick, and people are still having birthdays, and people, there's going to the supermarket, going to the doctor, getting the mail, whatever. There's all these things that we're still dealing with, and it's all heaped on each other, and we just have to be able to sift through it.
And as Rocky beautifully said, that's really why we're here. The purpose of this evening is to gain chizuk one from the other through Torah, through words of resilience And even just some of the ideas that you were mentioning, Rocky, that idea of waking up and sending a child a message, even though you don't know when they'll respond, but that's something that I like how you phrase it, something that you need to do, which is why I'd like to turn to Dr. Tovah.
I want to comment on the fact that Rocky said they came here and her son was 7 years old. And I think for many of people listening to this broadcast in English, it's the first war they've been through. Mm-hmm. And that is something that Ashrecha, that it's the first war. Good that it's the first war you've gone through. But this is a war, and this is a very important war. And this war is a war for our very existence. This war is a war for our very existence in the Middle East. Because the only way we sit in Eretz Yisrael, that we sit here, and we sit here in Medinat Yisrael, is because our neighbors know that we are strong. And if we do not eliminate terrorism, and if we do not show them that we are strong, and if we do not show them that we have a place in the Middle East, we have a Eretz Yisrael is Shalanu, and we are going to stay here. If we do not show them that, then the future of the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael, the future of the state is at stake. And that is something, if you talk about Chizuk, and I said I wouldn't talk about Chizuk, but if you're going to talk about Chizuk, that is something that I think gives all of us, from the soldier that's on the front line in Gaza to those of us that are home. And like you, I'm busy cooking. I love cooking when I worry about my grandchildren. It really does good things for me. It doesn't feed anybody because but it doesn't do well for my waistline, but it's very good. Because this is something that when we worry about them, when we go about our daily lives, we have to have that same sense of mission, that we are here. We are here. We are going to stay here. And everybody has his part. Our part is to sit in Medinat Yisrael and carry on a normal life, to show them that we are here. The mission of the soldiers, some of them have a mission to be up north, and some have a mission to be the tanks, and some of them have a mission to do other things. Each one has his task and his mission, but all of us, from the street cleaners to the generals, need to have a sense of mission. And I think the sense of mission is what is going to give us strength.
And I think that's beautiful. I find that every parsha from the beginning of this war, from Parshat Breshit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's been whispering to us different words of Chizuk through the messages, whether it's the Or versus the Choshech of Breshit, the Hamas that's eradicated in Parshat Noach, the endless mission of Lech Lecha, and certainly Vayera, Pidyon Shvuyim, Chaye Sarah, the legacy of the land. And Parshat Toltot really addresses exactly what Dr. Tovah said. When there's a Re'av, there's a famine, and it's not the first famine, just as you mentioned, it's not the first war. And Yitzchak's on his way down to Mitzrayim, just as his father was. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, Gur ba'aretz hazot. You're of a different generation. You're not going to do what your father did. And we keep hearing that this war is different, and albeit compared to the Holocaust and gaining resilience, we really do have an upper hand in that your 7-year-old was brought up here. That, yes, that's really is. Hashem says, no, Yitzchak, you can handle it. You're not going to leave this country. You're going to stay here for the Ra'av. I feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling us, just stay. It's really going to be okay. This is a land that's promised to you. And you're not going anywhere. So based on that message as well, it's difficult sometimes, even with that encouragement. And on one hand, when people ask us for tools and asking how to contend with the difficult situation, we each are going to manage in our own way. And I find this, and I wanted to personally ask you about this also, and to discuss this together, the loaded question, people say, right? We engage one with the other, and we ask each other, how are you doing? How are you? And this time we're not just asking as etiquette. We generally want to know how we're doing. And you beautifully said, quoting Bialik,
Not Bialik, not Bialik. No, not Bialik. Chaim Guri.
Chaim Guri.
Chaim Guri was the
even more
poet of
modern.
the Milchemet HaShichrut.
Hashachor,
Chaim
beautiful.
Guri.
It's not something I think Chaim and I think
Chaim
Bialik.
Guri.
Chaim
We're
Guri.
all immigrants.
And I very often have been thinking based on, really he's based on the Isha Shunamit, who says, V'toch Hamia ani yoshevet. And on one hand, we're all experiencing the same phenomena around us, but we really are all dealing with it differently. So Dr. Tobin, when someone asks you, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you responding? Okay, what do you generally say?
Okay, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. I find davening much more meaningful to me than saying Tehillim. If I say Avinu Malkeinu, I feel like if I say the tefillah, I told the Taragin and to Marci, do you have a sitter? Is there a sitter here? I'd like to read that tefillah.
Yeah, it's a good tefillah.
It's a wonderful
It's a
tefillah.
beautiful-
I say it twice a day.
It's beautiful.
I say it at Shacharis and I say it at Myra because it's no Avinu Malkeinu. And I'll tell you, there's a tefillah that comes after the Seder, after Birchot HaShachar and after the Seder Akedah. And it says, Vihi ratzon milpanecha Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu shetagilein. No, that's not it. No, this is it. Here. Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu zachrenu v'zikaron tov lefanecha upagdenu b'pkudat Yeshua v'rachamim mishmei shmei kedem uscholanu Hashem Elokeinu avata. No, Abraham v'Yitzchak Yaakov. No, this is not. Do you have another sitter? You have another sitter? No, this is not it. I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
Give me another sitter.
Particular.
Oh,
Yes,
oh.
I'm sure. We not Yisrael.
What's it called? I can look it up online. What's it called? The name of the tefillah is just Avinu Malkeinu?
It's right after the
Ribon kol
Akedah.
olam.
Oh,
Ribon kol olamim. It's right before Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shemayim. Ribon kol olamim. Lo al tzidkotenu anachnu mapilim tachunenu lefanecha. Ki al rachamecha harabim. Ma anachnu. Rabbono now, Rabbanit Olam, Kimosha Kavash Avram Avinu et Rachamav, Lasot Litzoncha Belevav Shalem, Kain Yichbetshu Rachamecha et Kascha Me Aleinu, V'yagolu Rachamecha Al Midotecha, V'titnahegi Mana Hashem Elokeinu, B'medat HaChesed U'b'medat HaRachamim, U'b'tuvcha HaGadol, Yashuv Charon Apcha, Mi-Amcha, Mi-Ircha, Mi-Atzacha, Mi-Nachalasecha, V'kayem Manu Adonai Hashem Elokeinu et hadavar sheftachta b'toratecha ad yedei Moshe avdecha kamor, V'zacharti et briti Yaakov, v'af et briti Yitzchak, v'at et briti Abraham eskor, v'aretz eskor. And I think that says it in one word, Rabbanit Shalom. You know, my mother, when she was in dire straits or someone was very sick, she had this wonderful tefillah that just came out of her heart. She would say it in Yiddish, Rabbanit Shalom, help me, God. God, please help me. And it would come out, and this is what I think this says, help us as you helped Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Help as you helped Abraham Avinu at the Akedah. We are bringing an Akedah. There are young people being killed and being terribly wounded. And we're saying to him, we're bringing an Akedah. Help us, please help us. And this I say every morning. I say it every night. I say it before I go to bed. I say Avinu Malkeinu the other times. I say Tillim too, but tefillah is more of a language that I feel I communicate with God. Tillim, we say Tillim, and we say Tillim, and we say Tillim, and we say Tillim, and we help and pray to God. But tefillah, I feel, is a language directly related to God, and that's why I'd say I find tefillah more meaningful to me. I think everybody has what's meaningful for him.
That's great. And Dr. Tovah, I must say, now I'm going to say that Rivono Shel Olam every day, bli neder, now, and I find that in tefillah, especially teaching in Matan, the Tefillat Chana, we just finished the first parak of Sefer Shmuel, and you hear her cries, you hear the uniqueness of her tefillah standing, and not just ubachot tivkeh, but titpalal al Hashem. And it's interesting because I think it's reflected very much in this tefillah that until Chana, every time someone davens, it's for someone else. Avram davens for Avimelech. Moshe Rabbeinu davens for Bnei Yisrael. Chana's the first character in Tanakh who's davening for herself, for her own needs, and yet she phrases, or the Navi phrases it, Batitpalal al Hashem, not to Hashem, but she basically is saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this isn't just for me, it's also for you. Really, it's for your betterment, it's for your benefit. And I find, therefore, that just as Dr. Tovah shared with us, a tefillah that touches her more, and basically is turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and saying, Hashem, now you're the Baal Rechamim, you remember our history, so now it's time for you to get involved in the present as well. Do you mind if I ask if there is a special tefillah that you find means more to you these days than ever before?
I mean, well, after talking to Dr. Tovah, and she told me that the other day, that she said that really, that actually did a lot for me. There's also, can I have that, sitter?
Okay. Another tefillah you found. I'm happy to
we
get
didn't
more.
come prepared for this.
Yes,
I didn't have that in my head. But wait, I'm remembering where.
Now everyone at home knows that this is truly an extemporaneous.
Yeah,
production.
it really is. Wait, Marci, do you have yours? Because
Well, I mean,
I have one. Oh,
Beautiful. Melissa, thank you.
Oh,
That's
thank
the
you.
Ribono Shel Olam.
I'll tell you what did it for me. Wait, it was.
I have a lot of things that you do.
I have this one. Wait.
I'm doing a lot of davening these days. So, and there's so many things that now speak to me. When
That's
the words are just jumping out at me.
Right.
All tefillot that I've said all my life that I never connected to as much as I am now. Go ahead, you could say.
Okay, so I mean, so for me, I am not like everyone else here. Tefillah isn't my thing that I do all the time, I do it when it feels good to me, when it feels right for me. So, and I try to daven as often as I can, but that is not my thing. But when I did come across, I know that everybody says it all the time, right after Aleinu, those 3 psukim from Mishlei and Yeshayahu, I can't see it because it's very small, but Al tira mipachat pitom umisit rashayim kitavo utueta v'tupar dabru v'lo yakum ki Emmanuel v'ad zikna anihu v'ad seva ani espol ani asiti v'ani esa v'ani espol v'amalet. So those 3 psukim, like, as soon as the war started and I was davening and I came across that, I've said it before and it's like gone right past me. I had to stop and I said, and then my family walked in and I was like, do you see these? They're like, yeah, we know those psukim, but that really did it for me. And also after talking with Dr. Tovah the other day and and she was saying how she says that tefillah, that now also, like Shani, you said, I've been saying it and I also feel, the strength that we have to where we have to pull from and scream out to Hashem and know that we're going to be saved and know that we're going to win. It's going to be hard, but we're going to get there. So that was.
So I've been, one that I've been saying in the beginning, like really before, even with brachot, Le'olam Ehei, and then you say, Ribon kol ha'olamim, lo al tzidkotenu anachnu mapilim tachnunenu lefanecha, ki al rachamecha harabim. Ma anachnu, ma chayenu, ma chastenu, ma tzidkotenu, ma yeshuatenu, ma kochenu, ma gvoratenu. What is it about us? Ma nomar lefanecha, Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei avotenu. Halo kol hagiborim ka'ayin lefanecha, v'anshei Hashem kalo hayu, v'chachamim kivli madaun v'onim kivli haskel. כי רוב מעשיהם טוב וימי חייהם הבל לפניך מוצא אדם מן הבהמה עין כי הכל הבל. אבל אנחנו עמך, but this is where the protesting comes through, אנחנו עמך בני בריתך, בני אברהם אוהבך, שנשבעת לו בהר המוריה, זרע יצחק יחידו, שנעקד על גבי המזבח, עדת יעקב בנך בכורך, שאהבת אותו, ומשמחתך ששמחת בו, קראת את שמו ישראל וישרו. לפיכך, and here it comes the clincher, אנחנו חייבים להודות לך, ולשבחך, ולפארך, ולברך ולקדש, ולתת שבח והודיה לשמך, אשרינו, מה טוב חלקנו. I mean, עד כדי כך, אשרינו, מה טוב חלקנו, מה נעים גורלנו, מה יפה ירושתנו, אשרינו I hope you're all getting this. שאנחנו משקיעים ומעריבים ערב ובוקר ואומרים פעמיים בכל יום, and we say also at 8 o'clock every night, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
I was here, by the way, and sure enough, in this house, I was going to ask you about this. All of a sudden, Dr. Wiesel, that's right, an alarm goes off and you say, Shema Yisrael. And I'm looking around, okay.
8 o'clock at night, every night.
Shema, we have a little while, and all of a sudden, Masha started saying, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, just that one pasuk.
Those 6 words are what they, those, and speaking of 6, also at the end of davening, I started saying the Shesh Zechirot, which I never did before, you have to say.
I just want to say that these are the tefillot that we're saying, Melissa, if you have an English translation, because I know that there are some people who maybe don't understand, we're not going to take more time to, but it's really important if you could put up an English, especially for mom. It would be really nice.
Fine, put it in the chat.
If there was thank you so much for the English translation.
I just want to say that the Shesh Zechirot, the 6 remembrances at the end of davening that I never really said before this so much. I'll just say what they are. I won't read them through, but one is remembering Yetziat Mitzrayim, which again, like right now with all that's going on, I just feel like this particularly, it symbolizes everything that we should be thinking about and what I feel like we're going through once again. Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Geula then, and then remembering Mamad Har Sinai when we were all Levachad, Eish Echad Levachad. I just heard a beautiful thing tonight that last night's rally in America had about 300,000 people, and the amount of people that they all left their families to go to this rally, and it's the same amount, 300,000 people left their families to go to the army here in Israel, same number. And the time that the Jewish people were Ish Echad Lev Echad was 600,000 people at Mamad Har Sinai. So that's also another thing. And then Maseh Amalek, which is obviously what we can so relate to now. And then Maseh Ha'egel, which is about our sinning. Maseh Miriam, about Lashon Hara. And then Zchirat Shabbat, which is the ultimate rest. Those are the things that
Beautiful. Yeah, just given me so much chizuk.
I want to say something about the tefillah that you said. I also say that.
The first one, the
The second one, the one that
yeah.
you mentioned. But I want to mention, first of all, the part that he says here. Was said, they say, by the Gad Tzedek in Vilna, when he was killed for being Jewish.
Really?
Wow. Yes, that's what they say. And there's a niggin to this that they go. But I want to tell you, if you wonder, if you look at it, we say that in Nila. But it ends, but at the after it says, it becomes universal, and it's about man. But here, the wonderful thing about it, it talks about us. And it goes on to say, it doesn't say that Demei Chameim Hevel Motar Adam in a Behema Ayin Kia Kol Hevel. And then in Nila it says, Atahiv Dal Adam Mi Rosh. Man is wonderful. I have my doubts nowadays of all of man is wonderful. And there, but here it says, Avlanachnu Amcha Bnei Britecha, Bnei Avram Ahavka Shane. It's we who were in Haram Moriah. And I thank you for bringing this, but it is us particularly.
It's us.
And not
God is not going to give up on us. So
we're coming specifically not as for peoplehood, but for Jewish peoplehood.
Right. And I think we're seeing that. We're feeling that all around with the achdut, with the acts of chesed, with tefillah, strengthening both ourselves within Eretz Yisrael, certainly our ties with diaspora and Jewry, those who are also now victim to anti-Semitism. So Dr. Tovah, what are your reflections both on this relationship, especially many of our viewers are in Chutz La'aretz right now?
About what?
About how should they be responding? What more can they do? And is there anything else that we can do as a special beyond perhaps what we're doing?
I think Am Yisrael had been in a very bad state of fighting with one another. I really mean what went on here in this country before was terribly worrying. And I think Am Yisrael is doing, we just have to continue and not forget it. Am Yisrael is not saying, are you religious? Are you not religious? Where do you live? What do you do? What do you think about the reform? What do you think about the courts? What do you think about that? Am Yisrael's not saying that. I wish, and I think our leaders have to know that too. It cannot be that money of the coalition, money is given to the coalition for agreements, coalition agreements that were made when we were fighting, and it's not being given for the war effort. And I think our leaders, I pray to God that our leaders have the seichel to lead. That is one of my greatest tefillot, yes, that they have tefillot, that they should have seichel to lead us. But I think Am Yisrael has to learn to love each other. And Am Yisrael should not forget the sense of mission that we all have together. It doesn't make a difference if you're from a kibbutz. It doesn't make a difference if you're from the north. It doesn't make a difference if you're from the south. It doesn't make a difference if you're religious or not religious. No one is looking, and no one is asking. And what they're doing really is coming together, and we have to continue that and do more of that. I think that is not so simple. It's not a simple task. Yeah.
So I'm already anticipating the post, as you said, Mashiach, and what can we put in motion now beyond what our leadership has to do politically? So we're all working together. We're at the logistical centers together. Is there anything that we can plant seeds for now? And how do we plant those seeds for the achdut for the future?
It's a very good question. And I think we should sit together and talk about what we should do. It's not, I'm going to sit here and tell you, and you're going to sit here and tell her, and you're going to sit there. I think we have to begin to dialogue with one another. We used to have all of those meetings where people, they were pilots talking to Rosh Hashivas and religious people speaking to irreligious people in the days that people were trying to make peace. Maybe we should be doing that now too.
I think
and talking about how we can continue with this Ahavat Yisrael that's going on here in this country. I'm overwhelmed, but we shouldn't lose it. Someone once said to me a wonderful thing, said to me, we captured all of Eretz Yisrael Hashlema in 1967. Apparently, we did something wrong and we weren't worthy of what we got because, and maybe we have something now in our hands. We have Achdut Am Yisrael. We have people with a sense of we are all here. This is our country. This is where we belong. Maybe we should not lose it this time. Maybe we can keep it. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to continue this kind of wonderful kind of communication and sense of mission. Everybody going into Gaza goes in with a sense of mission. Yes. Everybody standing on the border up north, which is not a safe place at all, goes with a sense of mission. We shouldn't lose the sense of mission. That's what I think we have to do and help us stay together as a people.
I think that's beautiful. I think we really do have to start talking with one another now, which we're doing, but talk about what we're going to do after, meaning create the relationships now. As you were speaking, I was just thinking, not of this week's Parsha, but the end of the Parsha and the beginning of Parshat Vayetze, when Yaakov leaves Eretz Yisrael. So the Midrash tells us he takes the Avanim, Vayasem Oto Mirashotav, and Chazal say that what happened when he woke up in the morning, he takes the Eben, Asher Sam Mirashotav, that all the different Avanim came together, and that became the Matzeva. What's so beautiful is that Yaakov Avinu knows he's leaving Eretz Yisrael at the time. So here he is, he's on his way out to have to deal with all the years of oppression, and yet he still recognizes that there is a value in coming together. And the beauty is that when he comes back, to Beit El, Hashem tells him, just take that matzeva. It's almost as if he knew. He was preparing already then. Now's the time, get everyone together, even before I leave, before I even have my children, and then make sure that they're solidified as one. So I want to go back to something that Masha said earlier. She said that when we're dealing with many of these challenges, we have to remember that we still have challenges, personal challenges, community challenges, even before the war. And now they've been compounded with everything else going on a national level. How do we balance that? How do we still, on one hand, deal with family issues, deal with day-to-day issues, and at the same time, not ignore the national crisis, not feel that we're not contributing as much as we can. And at the same time, if we are so invested in Am Yisrael right now, how do we balance that with everything going on in our personal life?
If you would ask me, I'd say with a sense of humor. The only way we can handle, what do we do all the time? What do we do all the time? But sometimes the challenges are much harder because those people whose husbands are in the army, they have to deal with it alone. And one of the things that I say that the heroes, they're as heroic as the men, is the mothers that I have their daughters living with them and their daughters-in-law, and they're taking care of the children and they're coming to help them. The children who miss their fathers terribly because fathers are much more part of the day-to-day living. Once husbands went off to war, but it wasn't very much of a difference. The mother took care of the child and the husband was at work, so now he's at war. But now fathers put kids to bed and take them from gun and play with them. The children miss him. They miss their fathers, the children, and the mothers. And I have a daughter whose husband is in the army, is Maguyas, and she says to me, the men all get the glory, and what do I have? Dirty wash. But I think we have to really understand that everyday life is going on, but it's much harder. It's truly much harder. And if we can help a neighbor, or if we can help a friend, or if we can, help them literally, I think it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing.
I think it's even, I was going to say, I think it's even harder than just that, because we have that, because there's the whole aspect of the captives, and we're constantly thinking about those families, and there's constantly, I know I go through every day, I'm in the car and I'm listening to the radio and I'm deciding how I feel like it's the least I can do is to listen to all of these stories, but at the same time, I don't want to. I still have to stay sane and balanced, and so I have to take it in small doses, and that then I feel guilty because these families don't take it in small doses. Those who are dealing with that, and there's 240 worlds out there that so many people can't take it in a small dose, and I'm just pointing that out, that there is that guilt. I do feel guilt every day about that. But I want to say one other thing about what you were saying about the nicer part of about what we have to do, and how we can talk about what kinds of things we can do together to bring. I just think the seeds are there. We see the seeds there. I love seeing that the Charedim are now doing farming, and that we just had some Mishulachim come here tonight, and they were talking about how their brother-in-law now is in the army. And it's like there's so many different things that you're hearing about today that you never heard before, or the the kibbutznikim singing like these like Hasidic tunes and dancing around. It's just, the seeds are there. So I agree. I hope we don't lose it. Sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, everybody keeps saying balance, and that's doesn't mean even balance. We don't need to everything to be like life is not evenly balanced. There's nobody's fully right. So our lives, I think when I'm trying to, as you're all talking, how do I get through each of my day? I try to have some balance, like of doing different things, whether it's, volunteering or watching what other people are doing and volunteering. But then there's also, everyday things that you have to do. And that's the balance. You have to try to make sure you're not doing all of one thing and none of the other thing. And if you have a little bit of all of that, but then there is this very heavy part of our lives. It's just, it is what it is. Like Marci was saying about the chatufim, the people who are kidnapped. My friend Rachel Goldberg, whose son has been kidnapped, Rachel and John, she said, most of you have probably heard her speech, but she said those parents of those children, those 240 people, they are living on a different planet. Okay, a totally different planet than the rest of us.
Yes.
Who are sons and husbands and grandchildren who are fighting this war here in Israel, not doing crazy things. We are living on a different planet than those of you in America who are fighting anti-Semitism and going out and not being here, so not feeling what we're all going through, but it's your planet. We are all on different planets, and but we all have to have this, this compassion for each, and I think we do, and that's where our unity is coming together, understanding of the person and understanding that, yes, they're on a different planet, but I have to fight for them. And the whole idea of this volunteering that's going on, and the Haredim who are volunteering in the army. And my son was out today down at a farm down in Zikim, which is really right in Otef Aza. And there were 150 people there with him from all over the country, all high tech and saftot, grandmothers and young people, and everybody was there working on this farm. Now, I actually don't think we're going to lose all of this afterwards. I mean, it's my hope that we're not going to lose all this unity afterwards. I really feel that because we are being given these opportunities to go out and help my neighbor who lives right next door, she has a baby and a 2-year-old, and her husband is out fighting, and she doesn't live by her family. And I was standing outside with her, talking to her, and my neighbor starts coming up the street. And she starts talking to the little kids. She's like, hi. And she's saying, I'm their savta. I'm like, what do you mean you're not their savta? She said, well, I took on the volunteer job. I asked the person who's the volunteer coordinator who needs help in the neighborhood. And they gave me this woman's name, and they said, she doesn't have anybody here. She needs help getting her newborn and her 2-year-old help. And so and she's a nurse, the mother's a nurse. And this woman said, so I'm basically acting as her savta, like whenever I can. I feel like that relationship is not going to end. The war ends, and then she's going to be like, okay, see you, I'm that created a relationship already. And I feel like we're all creating these relationships through the chesed we're doing and the ways that we can help. And that's enhancing our days. And I'm going to say one more thing because it was all coming to my head at the same time, our everyday life, going to the supermarket and like I did today, and I had to go to pick up something that I had fixed in another neighborhood. And the radio here, it's not like listening to radio in Chutz La'aretz. You listen to the radio here, and every song right now, besides if you're listening to stories about the chatufim, the people who were kidnapped or people who were killed, every song is being dedicated to somebody who is one of their favorite songs, somebody who's been kidnapped. You cannot just disconnect, and you don't want to sometimes, but other times you just need to decide how much you can take at that moment. And I think that's really an important thing. You need to know yourself, and you need to be kind to yourself and understand what you can take. And sometimes you can feel guilty, but I think you have to just know what you can take and know when you need to disconnect. And I think it's an important part of resilience and dealing with trauma. I'm going to say one last thing is that we know, after going through what we went through last year, losing Dodi, we had a really tough year, and we had times, and speak for myself, connecting and then sometimes disconnecting, and that's okay. And you will get through things.
I think an important part of that, and this is the last thing I'm going to say,
And then we're done. And then we have to do yours.
is and Rocky was saying it's you can't, you're always striving to strike that balance, and you can't, and you never will, but you should always try to. I think the most important piece of that is that when you are trying to, no matter what you're doing, is you should really be present in that moment. Meaning, if you are riding your bike to clear the air in your head, then you need to be present riding your bike. If you're volunteering, then you should be connecting to that soil that you're weeding, those patches of strawberries. If you're whatever you're doing, if you're davening, be in that davening. And I just feel like if you can try to, it's that mindfulness, but it's really, that helps you stay balanced. That helps me stay balanced, is to just try to be really there in everything that you're doing.
Wow. I know we should end on an inspiring note, and we are going to, but you brought me back, both of you, to that sense of loss, that I think we're still feeling with Dodi not in our lives. And just like you said, Rocky, it's a process. And so the mourning, the tragedy, the depression, and at the same time, moments of joy and invigoration. And I've been thinking a lot about this because, especially this past Shabbat, just in Gush Etzion alone, we lost three sons of Gush Etzion, and the loss is so painful. It hurts to the core. And just in going around to pay Shiva calls, L'nachem Avelim, I find that I'm always walking out with more chizuk than what I'm going in with. But I wanted to end, before we end with our inspiration, to ask you, Dr. Tovah, what do you recommend to people with regard to loss? How do we handle all this loss? The loss of 1,400, the loss of 240 hostages, the loss of children.
I hope
children
we
that
haven't
we
lost the 240.
that they are lost, meaning that exactly that they're not here, but we hope that they will return. But not having them in our lives right now.
That's such a good question. I think from Dodi, the only way you can handle loss is if that person stays inside of you, and that part of that person is with you all the time, and you haven't lost that person, and you continue talking to that person. And so that's easier when it's a loss of one. But what do you do when it's a loss of hundreds? I think you continue doing what they wanted you to do. You continue having a dialogue with their families and supporting their families. I think families truly need people not to come to Shiva and leave, but to continue with them and to continue coming to them. I heard a very moving story about someone who lost his son. And the father, had been a friend of someone that was killed many years ago in the army. And he became so close to the father of his friend that had been killed in the army that he was like his child. And when he heard that his son had been killed, he said, "Call him. He's the only one that can understand me." And I think people have to connect up to people that have lost someone. I think people that know Dodi are very important to you, and you know that she's alive, and in their hearts, and that they're continuing her way. I think that's the way you can do it. But what do you do what do the people do that came out of the Shoah? This is not a Shoah. It's not a Shoah. Baruch Hashem. We have a state and we have an army. But this was the largest loss of Jewish lives since the Shoah. And I think people continued to be a continuation of what the other people were. Otherwise, you're left sad. And what do you do with sadness? You live with sadness, and then you can laugh sometimes, right? It's the same thing. I think what Marci said is wonderful. Whatever you're doing, do it properly. If you're happy, be happy. And if you're baking, bake the best challahs or cakes that you can bake. And if you're taking care of children, take care of them the best way. And if you're sad, you could be sad as you want to be. It's not a terrible thing to be sad. You shouldn't be afraid of it. That's the only thing I can say.
Even as you're saying, and I'm hearing the echo of Rivka Himenu's words in this week's parsha, Lama Shkol Shnechem B'Yom Echad, the idea of losing our children. But you're right. I think we have it in our DNA to have to deal with loss, to deal with also the simcha. But
Am Israel has learned how to suffer over the years. It's really.
But I hope that just as we all said, that this should be it, Bezrat Hashem, that we should learn from the messages of 1967. Rav Neria said then, he said, everything was really ripe for Geula. We really, just like in 48, we should have conquered Yerushalayim, but everyone was so insistent on going in from their side, the Pamach and the Lechi. He said, finally in 1967, we all came together and we were able to conquer Yerushalayim. But as we know, there was still division. And just as there were opportunities throughout Jewish history, the time of Chizkiyahu, Yoshiyahu, for Melech HaMashiach, and we didn't take advantage both of coming together and certainly not of singing Ashirat HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hopefully this time we're going to learn that lesson.
Maybe this time we will be. Maybe this time.
Bezrat Hashem.
Maybe this time.
So, Dr. Tovah, we cannot thank you enough for the honor, the zchut to have you.
It's not such an honor. It truly isn't, and I am always overwhelmed by Dodi's family and her sisters and her husband and her children and her friends. Those are friends and family forever. And that is the way you keep the memory of someone alive. And you say we're three sisters. We were three sisters. And that's, you still are three sisters. You are three sisters. One is not with you, but you still are three sisters and a brother.
And a brother.
The brother.
Can I share with you even a thought that I had? I know that we're going to end with a beautiful song right now, but I was listening to a song last night, and just as you said over the radio, there's so much Chizuk and beautiful songs and poetry that's coming from people's hearts. And there was a song I heard last night, Malachim, about all those who didn't make it, saying halavai, if only you could have kept running and escaping, meaning the imagery of the terrorists. Said, but I guess instead of running, you're now dancing with the malachim. And when I heard that song, I just have to share this with you without crying. But I pictured Dodi, and I was thinking to myself, it was so tragic when we lost her, but at the same time, it was exactly a year ago, and I feel almost as if Dodi had to get like Shamayim ready for everyone, and she was there saying, okay, I'm going to lead you all in dance, and they're all dancing together, and Dodi's leading them all, and we never know, and we don't ask the whys, but we definitely do gain a tremendous amount of strength from Dodi's love and Dodi's simcha and Dodi's messages, and to live life and to live every moment of life and to take advantage of these moments. And I think that with coming together and talking about this now and anticipating, it doesn't just become a pipe dream. It really does become a reality. So now we have a special zchut for those of you who know Dodi and Adam and Marci and Rocky. Not only love to sing, but they are magnificent singers.
We just like to sing.
Okay, fine. But they also, in addition to composing music and beautiful songs on their own, we'd like to end this very special evening of a Chizuk with Shira, and not just any Shira, but a song that Be'ezrat Hashem will start singing now, but a song that we're going to continue to sing for the long-term future. Because as Dr. Tovah said, if we work on this now, not just talking, but singing together, then Be'ezrat Hashem will give us not just the strength, but really the promise and the hope that we're going to continue to sing together.
Achenu kol beit Yisrael.
Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, everybody unmute.
And then we could sing together.
And then we
Because
can sing
because
together.
It's not just us singing. We are Achenu. You're not here to hear us sing. We
You
want
are all our sisters and
And-
brother.
and
And brothers.
everybody should just sing together. Maybe if he is, it's okay.
Find him on the list of participants to tell him to unmute. Adam, if you want to be unmuted, raise your hand.
Everybody should
Everybody,
unmute because
everybody.
we are all together, and that's the point of this. So let's
Yes,
all sing
Achenu,
together.
let's be Achenu.
Together, sing loud.
Ready? Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. הנתונים בצר ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, עומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם, ירחם, יוצאים מצרה, ומאפל מנורה ומשעבוד, לגאולה בגנה ובזמן קריב. המקום ירחם, ירחם עלינו, יוצאים מצרה, לברכה, ומאפל עליונה ומשעבוד, לגאולה בגנה ובזמן קריב.
Wow. Thank you all. Thank you for meeting us here for this very special evening. Mamash toda. Everyone stay here. We're going to engage everyone who has joined us. The many participants. I'm going to take a look at the chats. If anyone has, you can either stay on or to log off. There have been numerous comments here. Many who have said thank you. This was very inspiring. Shanishma b'sorot tovot. And let's start from the Ribono Shel Olam. Beautiful, beautiful. And anyone want to chime in? You're all unmuted now, or you can unmute yourselves.
No, they're not unmuted. I'm not. If anyone wants to unmute, they have to raise their hand, and I'll allow them to talk. I can't do unmute everybody. It doesn't work on a webinar.
Thank
But
you.
anyone who wants to, if you raise your hand, I will open.
Many special messages from friends over here. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you all so
Thank
much
you.
for all being here. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us.
There's a message from